Well, it's happening. Not for the first time, but it's happening again. People have decided that Steam is the bad guy, or at least in this case, a group of game developers, allegedly a very big percentage of 306 managerial positions within gaming. Because they've taken to calling Steam a monopoly, and then also saying that they depend on Steam for over 75% of their revenue. This comes from a PC gaming distribution platform called Rocky, which had Atomic Research Collective conduct an independent study. The results of which are that over 88% of respondents said that Valve's storefront Steam accounts for over 75% of their revenue, and 72% see Steam as a monopoly, claiming specifically that it effectively exists as a monopoly, and half of them saying that they're worried about their reliance on the platform. Now, there's two ways of looking at these results, and one is that a very large amount of people don't understand what a monopoly is, and the other one is that a lot of people are angry that they have to bow down to Steam, and the wheels are turning in a different direction now, but it's not going to matter, and we're going to talk about why. All of this is happening, by the way, as Valve pushes their new discoverability tools on Steam, which include a tailor-made calendar based on the games that you like, showing you all of the things that are upcoming that you might be interested in, to help surface indies and games that you might not have seen otherwise in order to give those a better chance. And this topic is one that strikes a very important chord for me and a lot of what I do here on the channel, because I don't just cover news and reviews and all the usual stuff regarding gaming. One of the things that I think is very important is customer advocacy, which is why I call it customer advocacy, because I'm tired of being called a consumer. I do more than consume. I'm more than a number on a spreadsheet. And the way that Valve has managed to take up so much of the PC market share while having basically no monopolistic practices in place. Quite the contrary, most of Valve's competition tries to implement monopolistic practices, and the fact that they have so much competition is precisely what makes it so that they are not a monopoly. But again, I might be getting ahead of myself here. It's the fact that a lot of what Steam does is customer first. It's offering customers safety, security, and a service that they actually enjoy. Most of which has been done by just being the first to market and then not screwing up royally, not taking advantage of that market share that they have to try and squeeze the customer. Sometimes it's really that simple. It just seems like other people don't understand it. And so I think it's worth talking about the PC market that has been growing and changing quite a lot, where that could be headed, what actually is a monopoly, and are we in danger of Valve becoming one? What are the signs of them? And what does this have to do with our expectations from the past? Because there's some really cool articles from about 10 years ago talking about how Valve is the worst thing that has happened to PC gaming and Steam is going to destroy it all. I'm so glad things live on forever on the internet, because that's going to be a fun read, trust me. But before we get into all of that, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's great to see you. You're looking fantastic. I'm really excited about today's video, and if you like it at any point, hit the like button. Helps a ton, helps cut through the noise out there on YouTube. And if towards the end of the video you like the way that I cover the games industry, that I review games, talk about them, and all of that, consider subscribing. Maybe check out another video on the channel first. Make sure that what I do here is worth your time. Let's get into it. Now, I'm going to very clearly show you why Steam is not a monopoly, but that doesn't mean that Steam isn't basically all-important and all-consuming on the PC market today. It is the standard, and it is the base platform that most people use. From sales metrics to concurrent users, Steam is what we use to gauge what is popular, what is good. Steam's user review system is so important that it is a badge of pride for thousands of developers to strive for an overwhelmingly positive on Steam. It is a glowing sign of quality. And I've even heard of developers receiving bonuses, as they used to back in the day, based on their Metacritic rating, based on their Steam user rating. The impact that Steam has within gaming culture and the overall gaming landscape cannot be overstated. But, and even according to this very report for Steam accounting for over 75% of all PC video games that move around these days, that does not make a monopoly. For something to be a monopoly, it needs to functionally try and avoid competition, basically doing everything possible for that competition to not exist, to block competitors from entering the scene or working at all, and there are plenty of real-life examples of monopolies. A common one that you might actually have in your own home tends to be utilities, be that electricity, gas, and things like that. Especially in rural areas, or really just a lot of areas in general, you often have access to only one provider. Now, normally, the government steps in to regulate that, to make sure that they don't take advantage of it and say, well, hey, if you want electricity, you're gonna have to pay me what I ask. But functionally, they are a monopoly because they have all of the power. And that does make sense. If a utilities provider is the one that creates the infrastructure out to the middle of nowhere, why would anybody else try and compete building their own, investing into all of that to provide to a small community? However, this being like a basic thing that most people need, governments normally reach agreements with these providers to help them along and incentivize them to do it. But when you only have one potential provider, you are in a monopoly. Some examples within the corporate world include things like Luxottica, which if you've never looked it up, they're basically responsible for every single pair of glasses in the world, and they've done some really terrible things over the years. I'm sure you'll find some really good YouTube videos out there. Within the tech space, we've seen this a lot. We've seen accusations at Microsoft of being a monopoly within the operating system world, which is complicated because technically as a platform, it is slightly open, and there is, of course, Linux and Mac. And yes, we will talk about the fact that Valve is actively fighting against the Microsoft monopoly in a bit. But we've even seen accusations of monopoly towards Apple during the great green text bubble, blue text bubble debacle of whatever year it was, of them trying to cut out the competition and them refusing to offer a good experience to their users in order to separate themselves from Android devices. So in case you're wondering still, no. Steam doesn't do any of these things. If anything, Steam every single day is more and more open, allowing more and more developers to publish their games and just sell them on the platform. They do not control the prices at which those games are sold. If anything, they incentivize people to discount their games and to promote them during their sales, which does of course benefit us, the customer. And when it comes to exclusivity, it's only the games that they themselves publish. They don't butt in and try and reach deals with game studios to make their games exclusive to the platform, to try and eliminate competition and force customers onto Steam. Quite on the contrary, and one of the reasons that some of these developers might not look at Steam the most positively is the fact that they have a pretty high revenue share. It starts at 30%, and if you sell gangbusters or if you're a big publisher with negotiating power, it can go down all the way to 10%. But for most developers, that's a 30% revenue share to Steam, and the competition that Steam has, be that things like itch.io, Epic Game Store, or the Xbox Game Store, all offer way better revenue share of around 12%. And still, because of Steam's impact, people have to go and put their game on the 30% revenue share platform that is Steam, which, hey, that might sting to some of them. I get it. 18% is a lot of money. 18% off of $1 million. I can't count that high. But they are forced to do it, but not because Steam has monopolistic practices, but because Steam is where their customers are. On the flip side, Epic Game Store and their never-ending string of free games, the amount of games that they fund or try and get exclusivity on their platform to get people to go over there. Xbox and, games for Windows Live back in the day, if anybody remembers that, used to have a ton of exclusives of their games on there and even used to try and get some exclusives to compete, and they never could till now. As you can see, you can get most Xbox games on Steam, and the only reason that you would really ever launch anything from the Xbox Game Store is because you have Game Pass. Two of the most recent Epic Games exclusives being Alan Wake 2, which has taken its sweet time to even be profitable, guess why, and Blades of Fire, which is Mercury Steam's latest game. Mercury Steam, yes, the developer of Castlevania Lords of Shadow and then Metroid Dread, put out their own new IP exclusively on Epic Games Store, which is why you've never heard of it. Or Fortnite itself being locked behind the Epic Games Store, and in order to not give Apple money, them refusing to have Fortnite on the App Store and all of that. Heck, as we move towards a world where Xboxes are just PCs, the console market might see themselves with a monopoly from PlayStation. And at that point, PlayStation might squeeze you for more and more money, double the price of PS Plus and make it more necessary for online gaming, remove benefits or paywall them behind new tiers, all sorts of things if they're the ones in control. That is, of course, if the Switch 2 doesn't put up some healthy competition, which looking at the development of Borderlands 4 for Switch 2 might be trickier than we think. That might not be happening. And of course, depending on how common PCs become in the living room, I guess. We'll see about that. But Steam doesn't practice these things. Instead, their competition uses monopolistic practices. And that's the funny thing, right? If you are dominating the market and do these sorts of things, lock certain games or services exclusively behind your wall, you're a monopoly. But if you're competing against them, everything's free game. But all that really does is prove how much Steam isn't a monopoly. It's just really damn big and very important. But here's the thing, why are customers always wanting to be on Steam? Why are people willing to outright pay money for a game to have it on Steam when they could play it on a different launcher for free? It's not just about blind loyalty. It's about ecosystem, experience, and trust put into the company for many, many, many years that they've earned it. Until one day Gabe isn't around anymore and they go public. Sorry for the jump scare. Damn it. I promised myself I wouldn't think about this, but like sometimes it just pops into my head and I just keep thinking like what a disaster this is gonna be. From the way that Steam prioritizes the customer experience, to its refund policy, to its sales, to new things like Steam Next Fest and the new discoverability tools of the calendar, and how that can help people find cool games that they specifically would like. From the ecosystem of caring about your Steam achievements or trading cards or whatever have you, Steam has offered customers a very good experience that they enjoy and that they have become entrenched in. But absolutely nothing is stopping every single Steam user from just going somewhere else. The only games that are exclusive to Steam are because they want to be, not because they're required to be. Nothing is stopping you right now from going and getting all of your games DRM free on GOG. And if one day Steam does start being a monopoly, all of those alternatives will be there. But I find it incredibly dangerous to have the people that make games call the one platform that has proven itself time and time again to have the customer's experience at the forefront of it all a monopoly. It's basically a bunch of babies not understanding what a monopoly is or crying that they need to put their game on Steam because it's the best platform. Valve is an incredibly successful company that makes money hand over fist without really even lifting a finger. And the reason they've managed to keep the throne is because despite their market share, they haven't done anything scummy like try and force prices onto people, raise them, limit any services that they have, or aggressively try and monetize things. And it's because they've been in a position of power and haven't that they've earned people's trust. Because whether we want to admit it or not, we know that if Epic Games Store had the highest market share, the free games would disappear, the prices would go up, the revenue share would go from 12% to whatever they want, probably 40%, and everybody would be screwed with a platform that offers less good things to the customer and takes more from the developer. It is the possibility of doing something and not doing it in this case that inspires that trust. But it's always put into question. And what I find funny is that it's put into question as if there were no alternatives. If we go all the way back to 2010, we have this article on Games Brief titled 5 Reasons Why Steam Will Destroy the PC Games Industry. And oh man, Nicholas Lavelle couldn't have been more wrong. He says that in short, Valve is becoming a dangerous monopoly. And why does that matter? Well, 5 reasons. The first one is that monopolies stifle distribution innovation. He claims that in a free market, competition is healthy, which is something that I agree with wholeheartedly and have said incessantly on this very channel. And that when one company is just so far and ahead better than everybody else, people can't compete and no innovation happens. But that's just not true. It has never happened. Firstly, because Steam has continued to innovate in distribution, be that with how their store works and how discoverability works on it, to their policies towards customers or how their reviews system works, down to how they categorize games and filter for early access and demand certain things from developers in order to protect customers. Somehow, it's managed to lead in distributor innovation in many areas where the competition, it's not that they can't, it's that they don't want to. Now, this one just doesn't matter anymore. It's about how monopolies stifle creative innovation and how developers complain that it's very, very difficult to get into Steam. Yes, there was a time where getting on Steam was the equivalent of having the Nintendo seal of quality, but we know what happened to Steam. It's like the Old West out there, and it's one of the things that they're actually trying to fix with things like that calendar feature. There are so many games coming out, and they're basically all welcome on Steam at any point, and that's just an evolution of what was the Steam Greenlight experiment, which I guess is another distributor innovation. The idea was that maybe if Valve didn't like a specific type of game, or if Valve ever thought that, for example, a game is too competitive for Half-Life, they would refuse to distribute it. When Valve has really never said no to games in a pretty damn long time, and this was the platform on which they published Hunt Down the Freeman and Black Mesa. So the third reason is that the little guys don't get to be in the conversation, because when you're big and you want big money, actually, you forget to help the little guys, something that Valve is not doing. It makes complete sense, by the way. You would think that when you're the biggest kid on the block, you care about the biggest business on the block. But Steam has been very smart about this, and it's also boosted by the fact that revenue share goes down the bigger a game is. But Steam is doing more than anyone to help the little guys. From Steam Next Fest to discoverability to the importance, the value that the new and trending page has to small indie games, in just the visibility that it grants and how Steam prioritizes those things and is trying to shift it algorithmically to make it even better. Reason number 4 is that Steam has all of the pricing power. And this one is kind of true, but not really. It's about how potentially Steam as a market leader could say, hey, you small guys, if you want to sell your game at all, you need to be on Steam, and we're gonna set the prices. You need us, we don't need you, so you're going to abide by our rule. But the thing is, Steam set their rules a long time ago, and they're just there, and they don't really force people to work with them. You can choose to or not. In the case of indie games, where it gets pretty complicated, tons of them find way more success on the Switch, or on Game Pass, or on PlayStation. Some of them find success through things like itch.io, but inevitably all of them also want to be on Steam, and they just all abide by the same rules. It's not like they're sitting there saying, well, it's such a privilege to be on Steam that we're gonna charge you more. And reason number 5 is that Valve doesn't actually promote the platform. You know, in this case, the PC, and therefore it doesn't promote competition. Where Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo have to promote their consoles, and therefore they actually have to give you good products. Basically, the fact that consoles are overpowered compared to the price that you pay for them and are a benefit to most customers, where Steam doesn't actually help the PC. But that's actually not true now either. The Steam Deck isn't just great value for money, it's also one of the key reasons that game development is shifting towards supporting Linux more and more. SteamOS and the flexibility of portable personal computers is one of the ways that we're actually removing control from Microsoft. The most meaningful effort towards Linux gaming that has been done pretty much ever is the existence of the Steam Deck, because it's one of the first times that developers can say, oh, putting in the effort towards a Linux functional version of this opens us up to a marketplace that could be huge for us. But it's not just Steam Decks that reap those rewards, it's everybody who doesn't want to use Windows. And it's telling that even all the way back in 2010, you can read that aren't Valve the good guys? They say here, they are a great developer that has created from scratch a dominant digital distribution platform, mainly through making it so damned good that consumers don't want to use anything else. And that was true all the way back then too, and it's still pretty damn true now. And he closes this article by saying, so we're in this weird place. Steam's dominance is, in my view, bad for the industry, yet the emergence of a new service-based business model is a terminal threat to Steam. How Valve chooses to react to that threat will show whether they are PC gaming's savior or its monopolistic exploiter. And if we go forward 15 years into the future, I think we know what side we're on more today. Part of what makes Steam so smart and so dominant is that they haven't fallen prey to greed. They haven't fallen prey to exploiting their market share and trying to implement monopolistic practices, and instead have committed to the customer-first experience that gives flexibility and control. It's about options, it's about choice, it's about the way that you want things to go down. Maybe one day that will stop being the case. There is a day that will come where maybe if Valve has to go public or something, well, they will have to obey shareholders who want more and more money, and they'll take that market share and squeeze us for every penny. And it's one of the reasons why in the back of my mind, I still don't view Steam as like my forever green library of games or something, because it can all go down the drain pretty quickly. But to call Valve's efforts today monopolistic, to call them bad for the industry, to call them dangerous for the future of PC gaming is tone deaf. It is to look at the potential of something and extrapolate it into the worst possible scenario after many, many decisions that they could make. And it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what a monopoly is and how dangerous it is for the customer. And that's the really important thing there. When you have created what could be a monopoly by having such a huge market share, by doing everything you can for the customer, the thing is, at the first opportunity that you stop, the customer has gotten so used to being treated well, they're gonna scram. Which is why I wholeheartedly support Steam and have been using it for as long as I have, but I'm always more than prepared to criticize things that they do, to move away from the platform, all sorts of things, because you can't hitch your horse to just one wagon. Let's pretend that makes sense and that it's a real expression that people use. So a bunch of angry developers probably don't like that Valve takes a 30% cut when the competition, where their customers don't want to be on because they offer worse services, charge them less. I guess that means it's time to cry because, oh no, the platform that everybody likes is still good. Let's call it a monopoly or something. I don't know. Let's get mad for something today. But hopefully in this video, I'm highlighting the benefits of something like Steam, but not just for entertainment purposes, but for you to really identify the dangers that exist within the industry for monopolies and for oligopolies as well. And if at any point you feel like things are taking a turn for the worse, speak up, change, vote with your wallet, all the usual. But for now, don't let people badmouth one of the few actually good things, one of the few companies out there that have demonstrated time and time again to be on the customer's side. Don't let this become an us versus them. Have a great time. Enjoy your new Steam calendar. Find some cool indies out there that you'll enjoy. Spend some time away from whatever chaos or rage bait is going on in the world. Smile and evade yourself with something that's truly awesome to you. I've been Mug. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned something along the way or had a good time. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, subscribe. A very extra special thanks to the members of The Wall who directly support me, be that here as members on YouTube or over at patreon.com. And as always, I'll see you again very soon.